welcome back from the break, Rams, into another week of Down in the DMs. This week's question comes from @JuniorG45, and he asks, what team is the most overrated and what team is the most underrated in the Eastern and Western Conference? Hunter, what are your choices here?
So Junior here, he said that the Raptors were the most overrated in the East and that the Heat were the most underrated. I think the Heat are the most underrated in all of basketball right now. And then on the West side, I have the Clippers and the Jazz. So I agree with Junior on those two East teams. Ethan?
Yeah, I'll go. In terms of overrated, I think the Celtics are the most overrated team in the East. I mean, you got Gordon Hayward on your team. How can you be rated that high, in my opinion? Then underrated, I'm going to have to go with the Pacers. They just got Victor Oladipo back, and I think people have been sleeping on T.J. Warren and Sabonis. They've both got 18.2 points per game, and they've carried this team into a playoff position without their star, Victor Oladipo.
Interesting. Well, I'm actually going to go against Hunter on this one, and I'm going to be the complete opposite with this. I think that the Heat are going to be I think they are a little overrated, and I think that Toronto is underrated. And I mean, come on, they're fourth in the conference. They're kind of at a level where they're just tipping the line for me a little bit. They're not underrated, but they're getting kind of closer to being overrated. They're just right there.
Explain to me how the former NBA champions are who is underrated? The former NBA champions.
Before you attack her, she's right.
Thank you.
I mean,
I want to go back.
Underrated.
I want to go back to this Heat situation. I don't want to focus on this Raptors
because
situation.
he's talking about
the Heat being underrated. Just look at their lineup. At small forward, they have Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Robinson, and now Iggy. And then at power forward, they have Adebayo and Leonard to back them up. It's like they have two lineups that they could play every single night.
I just think.
And they can't. How are they overrated? They don't get nobody's calling them out to be the ones that are gonna win it all.
Yeah, but you can't say that they're underrated. They're still high up in the conference, and they're not that far behind. I mean, fourth in the conference. Don't start doing that. If you're gonna start doing that, then you come in and tell us what your picks are too.
Okay, because we're talking about the East right now, right?
Yeah.
So the overrated team are the Sixers, and that was coming into the season. And then the underrated team, I said the Heat, but I really believe the Raptors are the underrated team. Let me tell you something. When we're talking about the Sixers had Embiid and Simmons. Simmons can't shoot worth a lick. I can shoot better than him. Let's just put that on the table. Now, and then Embiid is always hurt, and I'm tired of it. You are big as mess. You need to be dunking on people, not playing soft. And it's just showing that they can't win away. They get terrible effort. And their leading scorers are Simmons and Embiid. And then when we go to the Raptors, we have Kawhi's gone. So he lost all the respect. Right? You thought Kawhi was the leader of that squad, then you leave, and now look where they're at. They're number one in their division.
It's also the East.
In the division. Okay.
It's the East.
It's the East. Then give them credit.
If you really think about it, the only team that is appropriately rated is the Bucks.
Okay.
Okay, yes, and that is very
so
fair.
it's all a toss-up. But Toronto, they retained a lot of their scoring. Outside of Kawhi, they retained a very good team. I mean, Pascal Siakam is emerging as a superstar. I mean, he's very good. I mean, you can't hate on Pascal. So there's no way that team is underrated. They've got a ring on their finger. I mean, how can you say? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Help me understand. I can't wrap my mind around this one.
I'm completely
really
with you on that. I don't think you can say that a team like that is underrated if they're the ones that is.
They lost Gasol and a small forward. If you're playing without Gasol, and that's a big dude, then give them credit. They're kicking teams' butts out there without their starting center, who's been doing everything with the Grizzlies. So I mean, that's why I think they're underrated. You wouldn't look at them and go like, oh yeah, they got everything, because our boy James over here was like, Toronto was overrated? Is that what he said? I think that's what he said. So they're not overrated. They're underrated. That's just.
Okay. Let's move on to the West. What you got, Hunter?
The West, I have the Clippers, and then I have the Jazz as being underrated. What do you have? What do you have?
We'll think about that for a second. Overrated is obviously the Rockets. I mean, it's the Rockets. And then underrated, I got the Mavs. In my opinion, I mean, the Mavs are a very strong team. Luka Doncic is one of the more special and exciting players in the league, and it's only his second year. I don't think they get the respect that they deserve, and yeah, I'll rest my case with that one.
I disagree with that. I think the Mavs are a little overrated.
The Mavs came out of nowhere. I wasn't even thinking of the Mavs. I like the.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking of the Mavs either.
So that's fair. But the Jazz.
Or they're just not thought of.
You said the Jazz were underrated?
Yeah, I think the Jazz are a little underrated compared to other teams in that conference.
Okay, well. That's
All right, well, I have to agree with Ethan that the Rockets are by far the overrated team in this conference. And I'm going to actually say that the Clippers are a little underrated. I know that they have Kawhi Leonard, and they're a solid team. But I don't know. I don't see them getting a lot of hype and concern.
Jealous of the Lakers? Or
yeah, they're right where they're supposed to be.
No.
The Clippers are so overrated that they lost to the Timberwolves. That's their last loss.
Well, the Timberwolves just got Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley showed out that game. He showed out that game.
Yeah.
He's on his okay. We're talking about it. I agree. The Rockets are a little overrated. They're trying to do small ball.
Wow.
You trade Clint Capella to the Hawks. I mean, that's not I need to go play with them if we're going to help them win a daggone championship. But no, Clint Capella was even though he wasn't producing enough, he was there to rebound. If you're not going to rebound for him, then for the Rockets, if you don't want him there to rebound, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Huh?
Yeah.
You keep talking about playing with all these players and
when
it'd
are
be
you
better.
gonna try
I really
out?
want to see this happen.
Yeah.
We have to have this happen.
Call him out for a
Simmons, you call out
Twitter.
Simmons specifically, and you say you're a better shooter than him. We need to see this
Yeah.
footage.
All right.
And then, like I said, the Trailblazers.
Our second question comes from Jackson Pitts _, and he asks, is Drew Lock going to have more passing touchdowns than Joe Burrow next season? Take it away, Hunter.
No, he is not. And then we'll just jump to you
Yeah,
because
we'll
we all know what you're
Alright,
gonna say.
You know, we may as well just I'm gonna just rebrand myself as a Drew Lock Stan account. How can you disrespect the product that he put out? He could put out a good product. 7 touchdowns to 3 INTs, 1,020 yards, 204 yards per game. That's pretty good for your first 5 games. And John Elway and Vic Fangio have both said they're fully committed to Drew, and I think that Drew's going to have more yards than Joe Burrow coming freshly into the NFL.
Okay,
They've also said
yards.
that they are fully committed to players like Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch, and you see how that worked out.
Those guys were bums. Those guys were bums.
You were all the Broncos fans were in.
If you don't show commitment to the guys playing on your team, then what's the point?
They were all in on those players too, but when Drew Lock starts to lose, the Broncos fans lose out, and they want a new quarterback in, and that's how it's going to happen if Drew Lock starts losing games.
That's just how sports work.
He had a great start. Yeah, 5 games with those statistics, that's amazing. But it was also only 5 games, and it's the end of the season when teams are already clinching divisions and clinching playoff spots, and they're going to start playing their second and third strings, so they're not going to be caring
What
much
second and third
about
string quarterback did Drew Lock play against?
I'm not referencing against the quarterback that he's playing against. He's playing against defenses. And it's like I said, it's at a time where it's not necessarily super important to every team that you're going to be playing.
He smacked all the Texans starters, so.
He played good against Minnesota too, who made it far in
Right.
the playoffs. I just think Joe, you can't go on and say Joe Burrow's going to do this until you see him on a team and see what he does.
On God.
So I'm not gonna count out Drew Lock and say Drew Lock is gonna suck worse than Joe Burrow, but I'm gonna wait till the season comes. So
Especially if he plays for the Bengals.
I was going to say, it also depends on where he
think
goes in
that's
the
fair.
draft.
Yeah.
Well, Rams, that is all we have for this week. Thank you for sending in questions for Down in the DMs, and be sure to keep DMing us as we might just pick your question to be on air.
To keep updated with more sports throughout the week, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at sports_CTV. I'm Hunter Fillmore.
I'm Rachel Hallam.
I'm Ethan Bird.
And I'm Ellison Hubbard. Tune back in tomorrow night for more news from the people you know and to see Erica Johnson and Brendan Fairbairn talking about who they think will be the starting quarterback next season.
And they're going to check in with Jessica Mendoza and Jason Ortiz live from Moby Arena before the Utah State game. You don't want to miss that. Until next week, have a great night, Rams.